Panel broj 4 će nam otkriti kako izgleda uvođenje Kaizena u stranim kompanijama. S obzirom na to da neki od panelista dolazi iz inostranstva, ovaj panel biće održan na engleskom jeziku. Pozivamo sve učesnike kongresa da budu aktivni i postavljaju pitanja. Pitanja možete postavljati direktno iz publike, a možete da postavljate slanjem SMS-a ili Viber ili WhatsApp poruke na broj 063 70 04 518. The topic of our fourth panel is the introduction of Kaizen in multinational corporations. The moderator of this panel is Goran Pekez, External Regulatory Affairs and Communications Director from JTI. Goran? I will introduce the panelists. Dirk Bantel, General Director, Panasonic. Slobodan Anić, Country Manager, Amatek. Živko Topalović, General Director, Contitech Fluid Srbija.
Good afternoon once more, and thank you for this wonderful announcement. I will welcome my panelists and open a topic that will be hopefully interesting to most of the people who are relatively beginners and coming from the local companies and Serbian companies, to hear how the companies that have longer traditions and bigger size were looking into the implementation of Kaizen. Now, as all of us are operating in multinational systems, cooperative systems, I would like us to begin with a short explanation of, in the first round, how Kaizen is treated inside of our organizations from the side of the parent company, when the implementation began, and whether the local organizations were waiting for instructions or start of implementation from global side, or this was part of the implementation wave as the investments were done in Serbia. So we'll open up with Dirk and Panasonic.
Thank you, Goran. Honestly speaking, in Panasonic here in Serbia, we started quite late this implementation of the Kaizen process. Of course, there was from the very beginning quite a big expectations also from the mother company that we implement this system also in our company. But I was a little bit the guy who was breaking, because I said, first of all, you need an organization which is able to follow Kaizen before you really start to make the continuous processes at all. So that's why we started only, to be honest, 2 years ago. 3 years ago we started to implement it. 3 years ago we started really with the Kaizen process. Of course with the support from the mother company made in Europe, not from Japan. And well, in the meantime, I think we operate quite well in this.
So, perhaps we can continue with...
In American companies, and specifically German companies, because part of Amatek is also situated in Germany, there are no big words about the Kaizen. There is no what is known as a poster culture. That means posters are all over the place, but nobody is living the Kaizen. In our case, it was without big words, but immediately from the first days there were some Kaizen implementation and Kaizen principles. For example, U-shape of the production cell, or 5S, or different basic Kaizen tools were implemented. And still today, we are tending not to have these big words and marketing all over the place and just words, but we are trying to implement this as a DNA of the organization. So that's a principle that we are taking in Amatek here.
Just a quick question for those who are not fully aware of Amatek's industry and the business. What kind of environment are we talking about?
Amatek is an international company headquartered in Philadelphia, and there is 17,000 people, almost 18 today. 1,000 people working for Amatec, 5 billion revenue, and main industries are specific measurement devices, defense, medical, motive, that kind of niche areas. That's where Amatec is present with its devices.
Thank you very much. Now we turn to Živko, and perhaps with a small introduction of the company as well, to hear what Kaizen meant in Continental.
Really, as a pretty huge global player on the world market in car industry and car supply industry, with about 250,000 employees worldwide, turnover from 40 billions of euro per year, company which is 150 years old. And as Slobodan mentioned, in this kind of company, you have this kind of effective thinking, but is Kaizen almost in DNA. And that means for the long time, Continental is very known with the Kaizen as the efficient principle of doing business. And connected with Serbia, we introduced almost all Kaizen principles and tools since we started with the company here in Serbia, 8 years before. And this is one of the, let me say, key factors of our success.
How big the organization in Serbia is these days, just for people to understand?
Good question. As a Continental, we are here on 3 locations in Serbia. One in Subotica with about 1,300 employees, with a production for fluid system for car industry. In Novi Sad, we are with R&D center, where at the time about 300 software engineers are working on creating the future of the car industry. And in Veliki Crljeni, next to Belgrade, we are producing with 200 people conveyor belts.
Thank you. So, if I may notice at this point, we have a mix of different origins, different companies at this panel, showing that it doesn't matter from which country the parent comes, the advancement of Kaizen and the lean management in general is recognized globally as the way to improve and have efficient operations. As representing Japan Tobacco as well, on my behalf, in addition to JPAS, I should say that also, in concluding this first round, our factory was immediately put into the program as well of Kaizen, and to voice the same thing, that it's part of the DNA, especially in production departments, to implement Kaizen, and as soon as you set up the organization and the team and the production, the implementation of Kaizen starts as well. And we are glad to say that our factory was the first to be FIRE certified in Serbia, and that I was really honored, especially on the first panel when the colleague from Galip was mentioning us and the visit to our factory. I'm glad to hear that this was a kind of aspiring example. But the point is, I guess, an interest for other managers in the room to voice what it is when you have the fresh set of employees and fresh set of culture, society, a local context to which you need to apply these global practices and global philosophy. The employees tend to be very new in the organization, or are belonging to a company that was acquired by a global player, be it Japanese, be it international. So I would invite you to share a bit of your experiences. How does it look like when you start implementing the Kaizen philosophy with local employees? How was it looking like in Panasonic?
It was very interesting because the people, they had at the beginning no idea about what we want. So we spent a lot of time in explaining to the people what is the idea behind, and what is the goal out of it, and what is the target to get it. And as our company was established 7 years ago, with nearly all people which we hired never worked in an international company. So that means for them the complete processes, everything what is ongoing in the international company was new for them. So from this side I can say I had no experienced people at all. Nobody knew anything about Kaizen, and this was the start point from zero. For me it was very fresh feel, I would say, because we could really start from the zero base without any bad expectations from the people point of view, and we could really explain to the people the deep philosophy of Kaizen. And what I saw, at least in our company, was that the people, they injected this. They injected it, and it was like they were waiting for something where they can also give their opinion, their support, their ideas, and that they find I would say like a ventil where they can give their ideas. So this was really a very, very good experience what we had here. Maybe I jump now to another country, because we implemented Kaizen also in Germany. In Germany, where we had factories with people working long time in the factory, 20 years of experience. They know everything, and for such people it's much more difficult to implement such a system where you really can show also to experienced people which think they know everything, that they don't know everything.
If I can agree with Dirk here, I had experience also with the brownfield investment where Kaizen was implemented, and with the greenfield. And I can agree with Dirk here that it's easier when you have a greenfield or a new employee to be integrated into a new culture. For me, Kaizen is all about people, all about culture. And this is a very important question, I believe, how to implement this culture of Kaizen, and what to expect with the brownfield or more experienced people who know everything. They think they know everything. Or with the newcomers that are open to the new stuff and that are like a blank piece of paper. So it's much easier with the new ones. Also one interesting experience that I would like to share is my thesis was about total quality management, and specifically about Kaizen knowledge, and it was one international brewery that acquired a local brewery that was in a rural area, and it was very interesting finding for me that the guys who would come from a rural area would implement much better Kaizen than the guys who would come from a urban area. That was kind of interesting for me, and that goes hand in hand with this statement that I often say, is that Kaizen is implemented in a let's say agricultural environment also, same as it is in an industrial environment. Some principles are there, naturally present. So I believe that was a reason why these rural guys were better integrated into the Kaizen culture than maybe the urban guys, So that's a small niche of employees, rural or urban, yeah.
Thank you. Very valuable insights. The word that you mentioned a couple of times is culture. And I think what turns out is that what you are about to create with Kaizen in your organization is a subculture of external one. Is that the differentiation statistics that you mentioned, are they actually reflecting the number of people that are open to change the culture?
Yes, that's an interesting word, subculture. That's something that I noticed that people are taking home, and they are actually also implementing some of the stuff like 5S or other stuff back home. What we talk very often about excise inventories, they also take back home, and they have comments like when we talk about inventories, they are saying, yes, I'm buying like 3 sausages and then one I have to throw away because I have excess inventories there. So that's kind of examples that are very interesting for me, and that shows me that actually our companies are spreading this way of thinking and helping people even in their private lives. That's also interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Živko, your experiences in local context.
I think it's very important when you are starting to implement something like Kaizen that you are explaining why you are doing this. You, as a general manager, as a department leader, you should explain to your people why you are doing this. You're not just, let's do Kaizen. Well, it's not enough. The main idea is here that through this tool, you are helping your people and your organization to be more successful, to make the life more easier, to be more successful, to make the working places more ergonomic, that the people can perform better, that they are healthy going home, and that the people are understanding what's behind this. Not just, let's do it Kaizen. And really, my experience was really, you must spend a lot of time to explain to the people why you are doing this. Why you must be more efficient organization than you are today. Because you are in global competition with other companies, with other players which are very strong. And if you as an organization are not ready, what we heard last time here in the panel, each day not to be a little bit better, to improve yourself, then on the long term you cannot exist on the market. And Kaizen is just one of the tools which is helping you there. This is one experience with me. Second experience is, and I would like to have their interaction with you now in this room, especially with the men. I went today to the toilet here, to the hotel, to wash my hands. How many of you recognize that there is no cold water in the toilet when you're washing your hands? Can you? Yeah. And it was really not so easy to wash the hands because the water was too warm and partly was too hot. And I recognize just 4 or 5 people recognize this. How many of you would go today to reception to say the water is too warm, I cannot wash my hands? I'm going to do this after this. And this is, you are Kaizen. You as a manager must push this. This is, the success of Kaizen is coming from you. If you are understanding this and recognizing this and pushing this, you can be a successful there. If you are not ready to go now outside to reception to say the water is too warm, I cannot wash my hands, on the long term, it's really stupid. You don't have the chance to introduce the Kaizen.
Thank you. That is a good example. And in a way, introduction of what I was about to say. Our experience when introducing Kaizen in Serbia was in starting stage implemented by an international manager, familiar very much with Kaizen, but the breaking point or turning point, if you want, was a Japanese director who came into center, into our factory. I worked a lot with him. I was trying to get familiar with his approaches to understand how he turned the factory among the 2 best in the world in our system of 50-something factories. And I would say the same thing as you just did, the personal example. For example, he would spend half an hour with the workers, which are not even direct workers, the seasonal workers, dealing with trash of cigarettes. Separating, meaning recycling things, separating paper from tobacco, from 15, etc. He would just spend doing the same thing. Very manual thing that even direct employees are doing. And showing not just his attention, but genuine interest with the workers, whether they're seasonal or not, or direct employees. What can you do about it? What can you do better to reduce the waste? And at the end, we because we were counting and had very detailed KPIs, we reduced waste with implementation of Kaizen to 70%. That was one of his KPIs, and this is how he was doing, not with technological breakthroughs, but genuine interest to the people and personal example. So personal example, I definitely voiced this, is something that Kaizen cannot do without. Either the top management is showing this behavior, or no one will do it. So perhaps about these personal examples, perhaps we can do one round. What does it mean for you, and how do you display it, and how is this happening in your company?
Well, what means this? I'm nasty guy. So for me, this is always, I fully agree with you, and this is also what I try to do. I have to go forward as an example. And I hate nothing more than when my managers are not following on the same way. And there are small things and small simple things that the people also realize that we as a top management, we see and want to improve small things. I was one time in our factory between the lines, electronic lines, and there was a piece of paper on the floor. And I was standing and waiting. And I realized that around me all the people got more and more nervous. So they were wondering, why this guy is standing here? And I realized that they looked and they were talking and trying to find out why I'm standing. It took 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And then a line leader was here and asked me, sorry, is there something wrong? And I just showed there and said, here is a piece of paper. She was red, like half of the line. And then they saw immediately that even we are taking care for such small things. When we see a piece of paper lying on the floor, this is not a space for this, we have garbage bins. And this is what I try to teach my people every day, that also for such small things, and small things we have to take care. And only when we are sensitive enough to improve small things, then for sure we are sensitive enough to change the big things.
I started my career in Tetra Pak, and I see some Tetra Pak colleagues around, as a technical service engineer. So I have this uniform of a technical service engineer, and when I started my job in a new company, one day I just was in that technical service engineer uniform and sitting by the side of one of the workers and told to her, hey, teach me how to assemble this motor, for example. And then I spent whole 4 hours there assembling that one motor. And then the other, hey, when are you coming to our line? And stuff like that. So I made a schedule, and I would spend, in the first several months, quite a time together with the people and assembling it and basically showing by example that all the jobs are good and, let's say, valuable to the company. And then there was a question on the parking. So one of the first stuff that was done is that we cancelled management places for parking. And of course you can imagine resistance from management, but that was very good because I said now I'm going to reserve parking for management in the back of the factory. So in order to get to your office, you must pass through the production. And basically, either you go around, which is way longer, or you go through the production. Of course, on the safe ways. Without safety shoes, you can walk only on the safe ways. But still, everybody, even from HR and finance and everybody, they have to pass now through the factory. So that brings a lot to people. They recognize. It's not equality, it's not about that, it's about that everybody has to bear their burden and that they are available. They cannot be closed, management cannot be closed in their offices and not to be seen at all. They have to be available for questions, for suggestions, even on the factory floor. So yeah, that's it. There are others, but those two.
Thank you.
I'm making on a regular basis my Gemba walks through the plant, and a few months ago, during one Gemba walk, I recognized that one guy on the one machine suffered during he worked. It was really not nice to see him, how he worked and how not ergonomic he worked on this machine. And I came to him and asked him, okay, do you have backache in the evening when you are coming home? He told me, yes, I'm having backache. Then I'm asking, okay, but why you are not saying this? That how you would like to change this working place in order that in the evening you are not having a backache. And he told me, oh, it is allowed that I'm saying this. And normally this is allowed. And, but idea is here really Kaizen is trust. And we have treasures in the heads of our people in all processes, in production, in offices. and to come to these treasures in the hand of your people, when they can create wonderful things, those people must have trust to you as a manager and as an organization. And this is really one of the also key messages. Kaizen is trust. And Kaizen is also interaction, not just that we are giving to the people down the frame and the tools. We must be also ready to hear to these people and to see how they are seeing this and have interaction with them in order that we improve.
Thank you, thank you. Again, a nice introduction for what I considered for the next round. The other synonym for the Kaizen was actually suggestion system, meaning exactly this, engaging employees with not just listening and behaving, but also giving ideas and proposals, concrete suggestions. I will start off with example from our own factory. We have a very complex system of KPIs, key performance indicators, that are measuring results of Kaizen, results of operations manager as well. But the key KPI of factory director is number of suggestions per employee. Because if that number is low, that means that the engagement in his organization is not satisfactory. The highest level or highest number of suggestions is not guaranteeing that the factory automatically has the best possible place in the ranking system, obviously, because it's the quality that determines the results of the organization. But I wanted to use this opportunity to start off a new round of comments from your side. How do you measure and how do you check results and pulse of Kaizen in your organization? And are you happy with results that you achieve in Serbia?
Thank you, Goran. Yes, of course, we have also one KPI for us is number of suggestions. So I think this is very important, and I did it the same way. So I give also the number of suggestions per employee as a target to the managers. Because also what was said in before, when the managers are not standing behind Kaizen, then it will be never successful. And I'm honestly the opinion that when the managers trust in this and when they are also willing to achieve this KPI, then they will do and support also that this will happen. But beside of number of suggestions, of course, this is for me the one thing. And what I really always like when I get suggestions which are not only having to do with some productivity improvement, but also these many small things, like Živko mentioned, for instance. This is for me a very important suggestion from the people when it has to do something with the health. That means when it's more economic places and these kind of things, because this can bring us in the long term much more than these short-term effective issues. Yeah? Kaizen is more than only suggestion. This is what we mentioned. So that means for me also very important KPI is the illness rate. Illness rate has in the organization a lot to do how feel the people, how comfortable feel the people. Are the people ill because of every Sunday evening's kafana visit, or they are willing to come to the company and they work even if it's a little bit a harder day? So this is also for me and my managers a very important KPI, which is also one of the targets, to keep this illness rate quite low, and then also to try to understand why are the people ill and then to do something for this. Yeah? And of course, regarding Kaizen, the third important issues we talked already about it. This is, of course, everything what has to do with 5S. This is clear, Gemba works, these kind of things we are doing regularly. And there we see and can feel also, did the organization understand the Kaizen process as a total, or is it still a lot of space for improvement?
Maybe Živko will go first. Maybe you go first on this question.
Thank you, Slobodan. Really, suggestion is a really good thing. Just a small hint. We, as in the Greenfield, as we started with the company in Serbia, we, let me say, break a little bit suggestion first 2 years of the company here in Serbia. Because we are, let me say, in very clear defined industry with a lot of specification where you cannot improvise too much. And we said in the first 2 years, we are breaking a little bit suggestions in order that the people are collecting know-how about product, about processes, about industry. And after those 2 years, we started more with intention to introduce suggestion systems, and really we are following this KPI, and these KPIs, with the growing know-how, these KPIs are getting better each year. And this is what we recognized. Slobodan.
Yes, I let Živko go first here because obviously I'm going to be a bit odd out here. And it would be a boring panel if you agree on everything here, so I guess here we're going to disagree a bit. I was in a place where KPI was number of suggestions. I was having my personal KPI in tobacco industry. I worked previously. What it brought, it was not Kaizen for me. It was not a Kaizen because then everybody were running for suggestions. Everybody were pressing it. There were a bunch of suggestions that couldn't be implemented ever. And finally, you had a part of the organization that, even though the suggestions were okay, but for some reasons it could not be implemented, or you would engage big resources in order to assess the suggestions and then to put it in place. So all in all, you would have a part of organization that was kind of happy and a part what was kind of disappointed. So maybe it was not the best system that I observed, but then I'm a bit reluctant to put KPIs on every single individual on a certain number of suggestions. What we are doing with the suggestions, we are trying to nurture those suggestions and people giving suggestions by promoting the best suggestions and the stuff that was implemented, and publicly announcing awards for the people who are giving the best suggestions. We are trying our best to implement as much as possible these suggestions, but once when you kind of put it in a kind of system that at least I had the opportunity to work with, and I don't say it was the best system in the world, that's what happened actually. So that's why I'm kind of reluctant in the moment to implement KPI on number of suggestions, and actually a bit breaking, as Živko said right now. We have a lot of suggestions coming through different channels. What we're going to do now is implement a digital channel for suggestions, because we also understood that this paperwork is good. Yes, low tech is good, but then we believe that this high tech quote unquote, it's not high tech, it's kind of Viber or something, that it will open up a channel for this kind of communication, two-way communication. And right now we are working on one kind of application for that. So, and still, if there is no CEO pressing on me, I put the KPI on the number of suggestions, I will try to avoid until I'm kind of sure that it's going to be implemented as it should be. So that's a bit different opinion, but yeah, we cannot agree on everything there.
Would just refer to Dirk, what Dirk said. You know, how do people like your company, which are working in your company? How do they feel? How do you know this? How do you know how your people, your employees are feeling? Are they satisfied with your company, how you're working? This is one question that you must ask yourself.
My KPI in this case is when I'm in the evening.
Yeah.
In the cities, in the village. But we have some kafaras. And then I count how many people I see with Panasonic t-shirts.
Okay.
And when I see quite a lot, then I know again, okay, they are quite satisfied. So this is my personal KPI.
Yeah. It is really very important, and this is one of the ways how you can check this. And we introduced 2 years before way where the employee on anonymous way could give opinion about the company. We are collecting those data, and each year we take a look on this. But this is really anonymous. The people, you don't know which people has given this opinion to you. And On this way, you can screen where you are with your company, regards how your people are satisfied with you. And this is your mirror and my mirror.
Very true, very true. And I'll just... Is this working? Yes? No? Thank you. And I think one of the conclusions of this one would be that, yes, a certain degree of maturity is required for the organization to be accepting the Kaizen, living Kaizen, and being able to be measured on all of the things that you can measure about Kaizen. At this point, I will give the opportunity also to the audience to ask questions. I think the debate is a bit interesting, and I hope that you would find something relevant to you to ask. Anybody? No? Okay, if not yet, I'll jump in with one topic that was already raised, but it goes a bit beyond the details that we discussed. It was mentioned by Živko about sustainability in relation of Kaizen and sustainability. Do you feel that the organizations who choose, or willingly or unwillingly, not to implement Kaizen, not to improve, are in long or short or mid to long term sustainable on one hand, and does the implementation in your industry of Kaizen gives a competitive advantage or competitive edge, if nothing else? What is the situation in your industry?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure. So I would answer this from the other way around. When I think about it, I have 500 employees in my company. Then I have 500 potential consultants who can show me some possibilities for improvement. And these 500 consultants I have not free of charge, but free of charge. Yeah? So it would be stupid not to use this potential. So I don't know whether other companies which are not using Kaizen, whether they are less successful or more successful. This I cannot answer, and I can also not jump inside of these companies. I know many companies who have something like Kaizen, some improvement system and this kind of things. I know also companies which have nothing, but I'm only the opinion, if you have such a treasury in your company, and one thing is clear, the people on the line, they know always much better what can be improved than we know from the distance. And I think it would be very arrogant if we are not using this treasury. So that's why I think everybody who is successful has also something from the people and from the knowledge of the people inside, however you call this. Yeah.
Well, continuous improvement is, I would say, key to the success. Now, will it bring you at the #1 place in your industry? That's another question. Today we have a lot of disruptive innovations. We have guys who are coming from nowhere and taking over big names in industries, from telecom to, I don't know, tobacco to different industries, right? But then, if you want to sustain, if you want to survive all these challenges, I believe that a small or big company has constantly to work on this continuous improvement, and lean is basically reducing all the fat you have in the organizational body, but again, not cutting into the bone and to the muscle. So fine balance between cutting the cost very sharp and improving the general productivity, efficiency and cost. So I believe the ones who are not following intuitively or with some system, they are falling behind slowly but surely. Now, these ones who are implementing all the Kaizen, that's not a guarantee of success for sure, but they are on a good track, I believe.
Thank you. Very good. Živko?
First, Dirk, I like very much the way how you describe this. You are an engineer, not? No, but it was a very clear description, and really I would agree with you 100%. And Also, I would also refer to what Slobodan said, intuitively or with systematic. Also, a farmer, seljak, is doing each day Gemba walk, is going to his cows, to the fields with wheat, etc., etc. And he's doing this intuitively. And this is, if you are doing business and taking care about your business, you will do this intuitively, this one way. And other ways, a Kaizen, which is giving you the tools and the frame within you can move your organization in order to do better. To be successful and to have a lot of competitive advantages, Kaizen is just one part of this. There's a lot of other things which are important that you're going to be successful as a company. But if you are not using these treasures, what you have, and these consultants, what you have in your organization, on the long term, you are losing game.
Fully agree. This is a fact. Okay, we are slightly behind schedule, just a couple of minutes, just to double check if there are any questions from the audience again. If not, then... Ghione, yes.
Kaže, kako su uspeli da svoje srpske dobavljače dovedu i u just-in-time način funkcionisanja Smajlić i da li su uopšte Smajlić uspeli? Znači, kako srpske dobavljače da kaizenišu?
Just for Dirk, as he doesn't understand, have you managed to bring your suppliers to Kaizen and to manage them in a just-in-time fashion? So, any experiences in that? I have some, but I'll say it for the end, please.
Maybe, Dirk, I'll help you a little bit. This is a sad story. Really. It's a really sad story. We don't have supplier out of Serbia. We tried to get supplier, but we could not find supplier who can cover our demands regarding logistics, regarding technical specification, regarding quality. It's a really sad story. We are here far away from speaking about to introduce Kaizen on the supplier side. It's my experience.
Okay, I can speak from the angle of Japan Tobacco, and we have a lot of local farms that we work with, due to the fact that we acquired a company that for 50 years in Serbia was purchasing and processing tobacco. I think what happened in that industry was a kind of natural Kaizen, not a formalized process, but the farms that have survived in this business, and this is approximately half of what it used to be 15 years or 20 years ago, happened due to the fact that only those who are really efficient and cost competitive have survived. And I could compare it to what you just said, that a farmer is conscious enough to go and check his field, to check his costs, to be modern, to acquire some new machine that he understands why he needs to invest. These people have survived. So it was not a formal Kaizen, but very evidently, as the forces of the market have proved it, they either have learned from working with Japan Tobacco, or they went out to do something else. So yes, I fully agree with one of the conclusions of this panel. I guess that whether you call it Kaizen or you call it efficiency, at the end of the day, you need to create mechanism and management style that will deliver efficiencies every day more and more. There is no standstill, there is no status quo, it can't be. You have to move together with your market, together with your consumer, and together with the world of technologies. So, with this thought, I'll leave you here and thank my panelists for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you.